All right, everyone. Good evening. How are we? How are we, emerging leaders? I know that we are, work has already taken it out of us for an entire day, but we will go ahead and get on up and move closer into the middle. I know we like to stay on the outskirts, but as leaders, we take the road less traveled, and that is the middle seats. So come on up here. We've had, great example right here, Emmanuel. So y'all come on up and we'll get started in a bit. Okay, let's see. All right, everyone. My name is Dr. Courtney Matthews. I serve as the interim director for our TCC Connect campus. Yeah, come on, Angelica. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. You ready? My name is Dr. Courtney Matthews, and I'm the interim director from TCC Connect campus. Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here at our Emerging Leaders Landing. I am so thrilled and so excited to have the privilege to introduce to you our keynote this evening. So it is Dr. April B., and Dr. April B. is a wellness coach, a transformational speaker, author, and organizational strategist. She is currently certified as a Gallup Strengths Coach, as well as a certified 200-hour yoga instructor, personal trainer, and nutrition coach. Dr. B has worked extensively in the past 10 years developing individuals, students, organizations, institutions, and communities on equity and inclusion, identity development, holistic wellness, and ethical personnel operations. She also serves in the community as a MS advocate for the state of Texas, develops and implements curriculum to educate at-risk youth and young adults on social and emotional wellness, and volunteers the provision of physical health services to the under-resourced neighborhoods. With her background in higher education, nonprofits, and private corporate businesses, she seeks to empower and equip blooming professional spaces to prioritize wellness, connectedness, and cultivating their greatest quality of life. Dr. B published her first book, Mama What's Cookin', to share the positive experiences of her mother despite being fully disabled with multiple sclerosis. Dr. B is the founder of Raw Honey Wellness, a business model that focuses on creating practical wellness strategies for the working population that promotes self-enhancement and productivity. Raw Honey Wellness transforms workspaces by providing innovative and enticing wellness activities that cultivate a healthier culture. Please join me in welcoming Dr. April B.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate it. Now let me just test this out, make sure I know how to use it. Okay. Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing? Oh, now I'm going to do what she did. Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing? Okay, good. Okay, I just need y'all to stay alive for the next 40 minutes. Be engaged, because we're talking about literally being on fire, okay? So we're going to light up the fire in here. We're going to get moving, get grooving. I'm just grateful to be here and share this space with you all, especially as leaders. This is so exciting, and hopefully this conversation will help you to understand more ways on how to lead meaningfully and impact lives, but also meet your purpose. So before we get started, because it wouldn't be me if we didn't do a little wellness, we're going to do a little wellness movement exercise. So I've created the desktop movement series. Mostly I use it in workspaces, but you can use it anywhere. And it's just a set of movement exercises so that I call it a triage for your wellness, that if you need something to kind of pick you up in the middle of the day, you don't have to run to the yoga mats or you don't have to take a walk outside. It's something that you can do right at your desk. So we're going to do what I call the compression and release exercise. So if you feel comfortable, I'm actually going to slide this chair. If you could take yourself and sit in your chair with your feet right in front of you, you can either have your hands on your lap or hands on the table, whatever feels good for you. Can you all hear me when I do this? Great. Okay. So the first one we're going to do is just kidding. You won't thank you. So the first one we're going to do is the arm compression exercise. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand, put it into a fist, and then you're going to do a curl all the way up so your fist will touch your shoulder, and you just pull really tight. You can do it with one or both arms. I just have only one arm right now. And we're going to release in 3, 2, 1. So slowly open your hand, slowly bring your arm down, maybe wiggle your fingers so you feel some new oxygen going through. Awesome. So we're going to do that with our shoulders, okay? So we're going to bring those shoulders up to our ears if they're not already up there. Sometimes mine just chill up there. Okay. And we're going to relax them in 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and relax them down. Maybe take a deep breath out. Maybe roll your shoulders around. Get some new blood flowing. Awesome, awesome. So there's a couple more that we do, but I'm going to start you off with those. And so again, it's really important to allow yourself the space to practice wellness at any point in time. Maybe you're just having an anxious day. Maybe you're in a really stressful meeting, and like I said, you won't be able to leave the meeting. And so sometimes you can do that. And I often teach this to workspaces to say that make this part of your culture. So if you see someone doing this, you're like, oh man, they may be a little anxious or they may need a break, and may have everyone take a break. All right, so you all are leaders, right? Who's in this room is a leader? I mean, I hope everyone is here and you're in the wrong space. All right, I believe it. I think almost everybody, if not everyone, is a leader. Just some of us haven't tapped into it yet, but you all have. So congratulations. And so when I think about leadership, and this is some of the work that I do when I train leaders or just train workplaces in general, train students as well, I think of it in 3 phases. So the first phase is that internal work. So that's thinking about your skill set on how do you hold yourself accountable and how do you address your needs within the workspace, within your network, within your home place. Do you know what your needs are? Do you know how you show up in spaces? Do you know your strengths? And do you know how to use those in the best way to move forward? Then we have our second phase, which is peer-to-peer. So this is utilizing that same skill set to then interact with other people and empower other people within your spaces. So do you know, again, how you show up and how that impacts other people? So what we're going to focus on today, now that you know how you are with yourself and how you are with other people, how can you then lead those people? And again, we're thinking about leading on fire. So I want to start with a couple of stories to talk about my leadership experience and how I found my spark. So if you see in this picture, there's a whole bunch of kids there bum rush me. You may see which one is me. This is the one with the crazy reindeer antlers on me. And at this time, I was working at a community center. I taught little kids social and emotional learning, but I also was leading teens on how to think about their next steps of life. So we were talking about job readiness, career readiness, college readiness. We were talking about life skills, civic engagement, all those really important things. And so one day I had an activity for the teens that I was leading, and we did a roadmap activity. So I was really, really, really passionate and know that I have a purpose and calling of helping people find their best selves and find their next steps of life. I mean, I was really, really committed to it. So we did this roadmap activity. I loved it. I literally drew a roadmap on the floor, and I asked everybody, what do you want to be when you grow up? Some said a psychologist, some said a lawyer, some said a professional basketball player, NFL player. And I said, okay, what do you need to do today to get to where you're going? And some of them said, make good grades. Some of them say practice basketball all the time. Some of them said be nice to people, do good in school, different things like that. And one of my teens decided to start playing, and he just really wasn't taking the activity seriously. And I don't play about not taking stuff seriously. So I said, hey, what's going on? What's happening here? And he kind of brushed it off, and one of my coworkers kind of brought it to my attention of hey, let it go. So I'm like, what? Why do I need to let this go? And so I said, all right, son, tell me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said to me, alive. Now, I worked in project housing, and so these kids, didn't have all the same opportunities that maybe even I had growing up, of thinking about going to college, thinking about preparing for job readiness and making lots of money. For some of them, literally success was being alive. And I worked in a faith-based space. And so when you work in spaces like this, they remind you to make sure that you remind them of, well, don't say those things like that. God has his ultimate purpose for your life. And so that's what I brought in there. Again, had a lot of purpose, had a lot of energy towards it. Well, unfortunately, 2 weeks later, that exact teen was killed. And it was the most devastating thing I think I had ever experienced in my professional career. A 12-year-old boy who all he wanted to do was just be alive. And so I had purpose. I was committed to the work. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I was designed to do, but I missed the impact. I missed that the most important thing that child needed in that moment was thinking about safety, was addressing the violence in their community. And so I missed that mark. Now, I'm going to share with you a second antidote. So when I was teaching at Lincoln University, started off my career, I was a tenure track professor in social work, and I was young. I jumped in, and so I was really passionate about also helping with a lot of initiatives on campus. I was working at a historically Black college, but there were just some other situations that were arising that intersected with all the parts of their identity. And so I put a lot of activities together, fishbowl activities, different conversations. I actually built a school-wide curriculum to implement to all the faculty and staff, just to help students feel valuable. And I remember I was in class one time, and I guess not knowing, I always in class talked about wellness. I talked about being well. I talked about how much I cared about the students' wellness, whether it was mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. And one day, one of my students came to me, because they are very bold students, and said, "Miss, I don't understand. You talk about wellness all the time, but you over here teaching us. It sounds like your passion and your purpose is supposed to be doing that, but why are you here with us?" And so I was like, I don't have an answer. I don't. So I was making impact. I was changing lives. I was implementing curriculums that was very important. I was making sure the students felt heard and supported, but I wasn't aligned. I wasn't aligned with what it was I was meant to do. And because of that, I actually went through a really severe depression at that time. And that was really important to me to pay attention to, because I unfortunately lost 2 mentors in the workspace to something like that, where they had a lot of impact on their students, but they didn't have the aligned purpose inside and the wellness within. And so my goal of telling you these stories is to remind us that as a leader, our internal goal is to walk in purpose. It's to do what we were called to do, destined to do, born to do, however you see it, because it makes us feel aligned and fulfilled within, and that is important. But also the external goal is to make an impact. So we can have a super huge passion about helping certain people in certain communities or doing certain things and changing lives, but we have to make sure we're actually doing that. It can't just stop at a passion. It has to make impact. I need to take this clicker with me. So I just want to take a little time to go with you through 4 different ways that we can lead that goes a little deeper than just making things happen, being the loudest one in the room, being the one who knows all the things, being the one who's the bossiest. But what gives you alignment and purpose within, and what makes an impact and change on the outside? So the first one, lead with servanthood. A lot of times, even whether it's in interview settings or just being asked in random times, a lot of people say, "What do you think your leadership style is?" And I always say I lead from the back. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't step in and lead and take charge of things when necessary and appropriate. I definitely do. But what it does mean is I feel confident enough that I've picked or hired and trained and equipped the people that I'm leading well enough that I don't have to be in front of them all the time to lead. In fact, the leadership is everything that I've given to you. I can see you now take off on it, and I can just watch, cheer, and evaluate along the way. So servanthood has been so important because it builds a bond that is unexplainable. And here's some pieces of that bond that comes alive. One, humility. Being a humble servant is so important because it focuses less on your competency and you and goes broader to the greater goal that you have to achieve. And that's what we're here for, right? When you lead, it's not about putting you in the position because you're so great. It's because it's putting you in the position because you're the best person to lead us to that greater goal. But it also means that if I have to do something else that's outside of my role, then I'm open to doing it because it's not about me being in charge, it's about the greater goal. The second thing about servanthood leadership is practicing empathy. So this means understanding who you're leading and how you're leading them, and understanding what they need, understanding their strengths, and understanding where they need to go to, again, get to that greater goal. So going back to leading those teens, it wasn't about how competent I was of how to lead people to success. It was about understanding what those teens need in that moment so that actually success was possible for them. Third, pausing. This is a tough one sometimes, especially in leadership, because we have way too much stuff going on. We have way too many things on our plate, and it feels like we don't have time to pause. But pausing is so important because it gives space, one, for you to serve others by listening and understanding, but it also gives a chance for people to serve you. I always say the greatest things that I've learned in my life are from my students, literally. They teach me so much more than I could ever teach them. And that's important because it makes me grow and it gives me more fuel to help them grow. So think about that. Do you pause? Do you listen to the people that you lead? Or do you only hear your voice? And the last one is discernment. So understanding that using your wisdom and your experience, you're able to figure out what goes where and who goes where. And that everyone has a role that way you can effectively delegate and you can kind of step back and let everyone be great. So with all this, some things may come up for you. Servanthood is hard, okay? It's hard to serve people because what if you don't get respected? What if you serve the people that you lead? What if you're the supervisor and you say, you know what, I'm going to step back and I'm going to take time out of my 25 task list and I'm going to do something for them. And they don't respect you because they kind of see you on their level. And you have to ask yourself, what is the premise of respect? Is respect based on who has the authority, or is respect based on your character? Maybe you think, I work too hard to submit my position. And I get it. You're like, I'm in charge, okay? I started from the bottom. I worked all the way up to where I am now. And I deserve to be where I'm at. So, no, I'm not going back to a coordinator position and I'm a director because I already did my time with coordinating. Totally get it. But you also have to understand, again, the greater goal. And leaders get that. Leaders understand that there's something bigger than our titles, than our paychecks, than our accolades. It's a mission. The mission that's aligned with our purpose within, but it's also aligned with the impact that you're making. And so if you are aligned with what you're doing, AKA if you have purpose in this, you will understand that there's no position that's too low for you. Now, if you're not aligned, you're like, ooh, this is not my job. I really don't like this, and I'm just here so I can get a check. Then no, you're not. You're going to feel this way. This is going to come up, and you may have to align yourself in a different space. Maybe you think people won't appreciate your efforts. We all felt that, right? When we serve people, we want to be appreciated. And I think that's a cultural misalignment of figuring out what environment am I working in that doesn't allow me to feel appreciated when I serve others. But also understanding, unfortunately, sometimes service isn't about appreciation. It's about the greater goal, and sometimes you'll receive that appreciation out of the greater goal. And the last one, I don't have capacity for that. We're gonna put a pin in that one and get back to that one for you. So it's important to think about serving others as a leader because, again, it gives you the value within of truly serving others and fulfilling yourself, but it also really makes an impact because it allows everyone to be a part of the greater goal. But the way that others can be a part of that greater goal is also through building trust. We have to lead with trust. Very transparent question. How many people maybe could say, I feel like I have trust issues? It's okay. Yeah, I get it. People be peopling, as the children say. So, leading with trust, you have to figure out, how do you connect with other people? We have to have relationships. I know I hear it said, we can't have relationships in the workspace, or work and, personal relationships don't mix. They have to. Now, this doesn't have to be your bestie. This doesn't have to be your social media bestie, TikTok bestie, whoever. But to know and understand and build a relationship with them leads them to a point where they will go through a wall for you. And that's an unstoppable place, honestly, because it's so much more than their competency. It's so much more than you putting your foot down and saying to do this. It's that they've built rapport and trust with you. Also, are you present with people? Are you humanizing those interactions? When someone says, hey, I struggle with anxiety, do you kind of brush it through and keep going through the rest of your day because you have other tasks to complete? Or do you stop and say, you know what, I have 5 minutes. I would love to learn more about that. How can I support you? What resources do you need so I can ensure that you can be safe in here? Do we make that a human interaction, or do we just check it off of a list? This is what true leaders do. Do we show grace? Now, grace is always a touchy subject, right? Because it becomes binary all of a sudden, of either you show 100% of grace or you show no grace at all. And so I like to talk about grace through the idea of brick and mortar. So if you build a whole house with just nothing but bricks, no mortar, what do you think is going to happen? Just the whole bricks with nothing in between, none of the white stuff in between. It'll fall. Yeah, all I got to do is run into the wall and everything will fall down, right? So we can't live with all tough things, all hard things that need to get done, all tasks, right? We need the mortar in between. It's the thing that holds things together and gives it a firm foundation. It's the thing that goes in the middle of the tough things. Now, if we have a whole house of mortar, now what do you think that would happen with that? It ain't even gonna stick up. Like, what is that? It's just gonna lay on the ground, right? And so understanding, no, we can't have all grace. No, we can't have all grit. But you have to know where the grace needs to go in between the grit. Are you able to go into a place where you can show grace to people when they may miss a deadline, or when they're struggling with something, or when they may not catch on to a task right away? Do you have that capacity to show grace? Because it does build trust. I know so many times in my life, and even just most recently at a dance studio that I work at, I really struggled with sales. Like, it just wasn't it's not my thing. I don't like to force people to spend money. It's not my thing. And to know that I've been given opportunity time after time after time to learn more, even to the extent of, I'm going to a professional development conference this weekend on sales. And to see that I'm being invested in all of that, and to see that I am trusted, that I will get it, makes me want to do anything to make sure that this gets done. You have my full investment because you believed in me and you trusted me. And the fourth one is self-trust. This is a tough one because oftentimes we don't think about trust internally. We always thinking about with other people, but thinking about, do we trust ourselves? Do we trust ourselves to make the right decisions? Do we trust ourselves to discern who can do what? And as leaders, a lot of times we ignore our self-trust because we're taught not to trust ourselves. There's so many people that tell us what to do and tell us how to do things and tell us how they think they should do things, that we've lost our own compass. And so as a leader, ask yourself, do I know what's right anymore? Or is it based on everyone else's opinion? So what may come up? This is not the space to focus on trust. We're here to get a job done. I hear that so many times. But getting the job done includes humans. It includes people with real emotions and real experiences that really need to be heard. And so in order for you to have real humans do real things, you have to build that trust. But what if that trust is broken? That's a real thing. How many of us have had your trust broken? Yeah, it's not the best feeling. It's definitely not. And so figuring out in those spaces when my trust is broken, whether again it's in a workspace, in your community space, in your leadership space, how do I bounce back from that? What do I learn? What lessons do I learn? How do I move forward and not get stuck on, well, I will never have somebody do this role ever again, or I'll never have somebody take care of the books ever again, but say, okay, let's rewind back. What lesson do I need to learn? What did I maybe miss? How can I improve moving forward? Maybe you think people are just inherently malicious, like everybody's a terrible person. And it kind of feels like that sometimes, honestly. I think because we highlight terrible people. But if you think like this as a leader, I don't like to say this, but it's a pretty hard statement. If you think like this as a leader, you may have to take your time to evaluate if you're experiencing burnout, okay? And take your time to back up and say, maybe I need to step down, and maybe I need to start from the beginning. Because if you think that people are inherently malicious, then you will never trust anyone to get the things done that needs to get done. You will always micromanage. You will always second guess. And that causes a lot of toxicity in the work environment. And it's hard. It's vulnerable. Vulnerability is the thing that's coming up. But with vulnerability comes competency and discernment. You have to use your tools. You have to look deeply and see, is this person aligned with what I need them to do? Are they competent enough? Am I competent enough to make the decision that they are competent enough? And am I aware and present enough to make sure they do those things correctly as a leader? And finally, again, I just don't have capacity for that. I know I just said a lot. I said you have to watch them, make sure that you pick the right person, make sure that you communicate with this person, you understand their needs, and you're like, when do I have time for that? I get in the office at 8 o'clock, and by 6 o'clock, I looked up for the first time. So when do I have time to build rapport and trust with people? And we're going to get back to that again. All right, so the third one is lead with wellness. Now, it may sound biased because I'm a wellness coach, but I literally see the research and the data. This is important. You have to understand that wellness is what makes the clock tick. I'll give you again the short story I said earlier. I had two incredible mentors when I was at Ohio State for college, and they were known as the hardest working people in the entire school. One was my academic advisor for the student group that I was the president of. The other was also the academic advisor for the women's initiatives that I was a part of. Wonderful people, hardworking people, both suddenly died of a heart attack while in the workplace. And this is not uncommon. There's so many people who are silently struggling. There are so many people who are forced to ignore and navigate undiagnosed or diagnosed mental illnesses. There are people who are forced to ignore or navigate diagnosed physical illnesses. And there's become this world where working has become more important than our well-being. And we can't have that as leaders. If we're promoting an environment that doesn't promote wellness, it's creating a very toxic environment, and you're honestly destroying people's professional career as they move forward. I know so many people who are recovering from the experiences that they have within their workspaces. And so we have to think about, how do we prioritize and lead with wellness? So first is being aware of your own things, your own biases, the way that you navigate things, even some of the phrases that you say. Being aware of mission statements that you put together, being aware of mantras that you tell yourself. One that I always use an example is like, I can sleep when I die. Think of what that means. Like, you don't have any time to rest. There's no need to rest. I can rest when it's all over. And think about if you are a leader and the people who you're leading hear you say that, then what do you think they feel like their expectations are or your expectations are for them? So being aware of how you show up and what do you think about wellness. Also reflecting, taking time to actually see what's been working. Like I work myself out. Like I said, I get here at 7:45 every morning. I stay here till about 8:45 at night. I don't take a break. I barely eat. And somehow I'm still not where I want to be. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. Ask yourself, is this working? Is this what I want for my life? Or do I want something different? And what do I need to shape that? Also, having a commitment to care. And the piece I want to focus on is, have you healed? A lot of times we talk about trauma-informed practices in the workspace or just in community spaces. But I also like to talk about trauma-informed as in, have you healed from those things as the staff? Have you healed from things as a leader? How does the things that you've been through come up? And, I like to go through two categories. There's a category of, trauma as in things that may have happened in your life, your family, different things like that. But then there's just how you view the world, your biases, and how does that shape how you want to move forward? I remember this woman, I did a training, it was like 6 years ago, and I had a whole staff. I was excited because we did this training. We never did it again because of what she said. And she had this moment where she used to work in the prison, and she ran into a particular person in this prison, and she said that they gave her a look that she perceived as scary. And because of that, she doesn't like to interact with the Black men that she works with at our job. And so you think about how that impacts. She was also a therapist. So you think about how does that not only impact the people that you lead and the people that you work with, but how does that impact the people that you're serving? Just one interaction, just one thought, bias, interaction, how does that impact that? And have you addressed it? And have you found a method of healing for yourself? And with that, have you created an environment that prioritizes wellness for you? This is why I made these desktop movement series, because truth is, we don't have time to prioritize wellness. Everything's going so fast, and it's not your fault. It's something that's trickled down, that's trickled down, that's trickled down, that's trickled down, that's hitting you. And so how do we create an environment that says, yes, we have a lot of things to do, but we're going to put wellness on this list. We're going to actually take our lunch break. We're going to have brain breaks for 5 to 10 minutes, at least every other hour. When we go on vacation, we're not going to call you. How do we do that? So what may come up for you? I hear wellness costs money. I don't have enough money to go to a Pilates studio. I want to get the really cute Lululemon yoga pants, and so I can't afford that. Let's figure out ways where we can practice wellness for free. Sometimes it's just sitting in your chair for 2 minutes and closing your eyes and letting your brain just go silent. But then some people say, what if this becomes an excuse for people not producing? I literally just did a training probably about 5 months ago and heard that of like, well, there's so many of my employees coming to me and saying, I have anxiety and I get it and I'm here for it, but then like that means more people won't be working. And I challenged to say, well, how do we create an environment where anxiety is not triggered? Or if it is triggered, there are resources that the person can still be functional within that space. And that's just where we have to elevate our competency. That's where we have to get professionals to come in and help you say, okay, how do we make this an environment where someone who has anxiety can still be functional? You may say, where do I even start? You may not know where to begin. You may have not been exposed to wellness practices. And so you say, what is the first thing I can do? This is why I have the desktop movement series. You just learned a new tool today to do your compression release exercise. Maybe again, it's just sitting for 2 minutes and letting your mind just chill out. Maybe it's just taking a walk. Y'all have a beautiful campus, by the way. Taking a walk around this absolutely beautiful campus or this beautiful area with all the sunshine coming through those nice glass walls and let the sun hit your face and you come back to normal. So those are places to begin. And once again, you may say, I don't have the capacity for that, which we will come back to in just a second. So we've talked about leading in servanthood, leading from the back, trusting and equipping those who you're leading to do their part and to rise up so that everyone has a piece of the pie of what you're working with. We talked about leading with trust, building great relationships with people so that you're connected and you have rapport so that people will literally go through a wall for you and they feel safe in your environment. And then we talked about leading with wellness, which means this is a place where I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be healthy, and I'm going to be a better person when I come out of here. This one is the most important one to me, honestly. Leading with integrity. Does anybody know the cliche definition of integrity? Yes. Absolutely. Doing the right thing when no one's watching. Perfect. So that's it. The definition of integrity, right? But I want to go even deeper, especially with leading with integrity. And this is the place where I'm going to say this very empathetically. A lot of us get caught up because maybe we're nervous about losing our position of leadership. Maybe we feel a little insecure about, do I even deserve this position? Maybe we feel insecure about other people may think I don't deserve this position. Maybe I didn't build rapport and trust with others, and so they don't know my working style. They don't know how I operate, and so at any moment, I could lose this position. And so I say this, and I want to preface with this empathetically because sometimes we just all get to that place where we're nervous. We're nervous of, am I good enough? Am I doing good enough? And so sometimes we do things that may step a little bit outside of integrity to compensate for that. And so I just want to unpack it. So first, leading with integrity means that you're willing to learn. You're willing to professionally develop. You're willing to learn new things. And as I said earlier, you're willing to learn from the people that you lead. Sometimes you don't have all the answers. And sometimes it's okay to say, I don't have all the answers. I want to lean on you. What do you think? And trust it and go with it and see where it goes. So having the willingness to humble yourself and learn. Having the willingness to be honest. I heard somebody say this a couple of months ago, and I'm just like hanging on to it. Is transparency is kindness. It is a form of kindness to be honest with people, to help people understand what's really going on, of course, in an appropriate manner. And to be honest about how you feel about their performance, honest about who they are and where they're going in their role or in their position, and honest about what you're doing, and honest about how you're leading. That's important because, again, going back to earlier, it builds that trust, it builds that rapport. I want to talk about the glass ceilings. This is important because I truly believe, I always say, my goal that anybody that I lead or supervise, I want to go beyond me. I want them to do things greater than what I did because that's the goal. We want each generation to get greater every time. And so I asked myself to check in with my relationship with success and make sure that I have a healthy relationship with success to the point that I'm not stopping someone else from being successful. So what does that mean? That means, again, that insecurity may come up of, oh man, I may be the only woman in this position, and like I don't want to lose this position, and I want people to think I'm really good at this, but like I'm nervous I'm not. And so if any opportunities come for somebody else, subconsciously even, you may just stifle it down. And so asking yourself, are you doing everything with good intention? Are you breaking through those glass ceilings to make sure other people can come through with you? And making sure that everyone that you're leading can also win too? Are you creating an environment that those who you are leading will then become leaders? And then they are also equipped to then build their own leaders. And then they are equipped to build their own leaders. Or is it at a place where only you can be at the top? That's leading with integrity. And it goes with the last one, honor. So understanding that leading is not just in front, it's with. It's in community. It's in togetherness. It's in a place of honesty. It's in a place of presence. It's in a place of knowing I'm not better than you and you're not better than me, but we are better together. And so what may come up is, I don't understand the value of integrity. What am I going to get out of it? If I do the right thing, but someone above me has a problem with the right thing I'm doing, then why would I do it? That's a great question, because again, if your frame of success is how far you go in your position or your role, then you won't be able to value integrity. But if your idea of success is, how do I reach the greater thing that we're all trying to go after, then integrity is the number one thing you have to focus on, because it's about that bigger thing. Sometimes you're thinking, they're not showing me integrity. Why would I do right by you if I don't know if you're going to do right by me? Again, it goes back to that greater goal. It goes back to that greater impact, that it's so much more than me and my role, but it's about all of us getting to what we're looking for. Maybe you say, I want to act in integrity, but whoever's the top of me doesn't allow it. It's a tough one, because you're like, look, I want to do these things. I want to do what is right, or just I want to do this for who I'm serving, but there's a task that was given to me that really doesn't align with that. So I think then you have to ask yourself, is this your aligned place? And it's okay to ask that. It's okay to ask if this is the space that you're supposed to be in, and have to step out of a role if it doesn't match or align with your purpose. And that's a hard place, because you can stay in it. I'm not telling anybody to leave anything that, gives them benefit, but asking yourself, are you okay with this? Are you okay that sometimes you're going to have to make decisions that may not align with your true purpose? So I finally said we're going to get back to this. I don't have capacity for that. And I want you to just ask yourself the question. If you don't serve others, if you don't build trust with other people, if you don't take care of yourself, and if you don't walk in a place of integrity where people can actually trust your character, what happens? You can feel welcome to answer out loud if you want to. You go nowhere. Say more. Say more. Elaborate. I like the word you use, stagnant. Yeah. What happens? When you're going into a place you don't trust them, you aren't even kind of there because you're really tired, you're really mentally tired. You haven't built rapport with people, and you're kind of I'm just fending for myself. I'm not serving anybody else. I'm kind of looking out for myself. How does that feel? What comes up for you? Say more.
Then you're kind of just setting yourself up for failure. Comes back, you're going to be stagnant, but in some cases, you make some enemies and they try to push you out the door.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
You're not pouring out, so no one is pouring into you. So you're not even gonna end up with the desired outcome.
Absolutely. So I hear stagnant. I hear you're not even going to get done what you're going to get done, and no one's going to pour in because no one's pouring out. And I hear failure. And this is true. This is scientifically backed up. This is personally backed up, and I've seen this in so many spaces where they're experiencing high turnover. They're experiencing, well, we can't get people to get bought in. Why can't we get people on board to do things? And we focus on metrics, right? We focus on the big things of, well, let's put out more marketing. Let's bring more pizza. Let's talk to all the head people. But we forget these things. We forget the opportunities to genuinely serve. We forget the opportunities to make relationships with people and trust. We forget the opportunities to just create an environment that feels well and safe. And so sometimes when we say I don't have the capacity for that, whether capacity could be time, energy, whatever, then we end up cold. You know, I started this talking about finding our fire as a leader and thinking about what makes you on fire. It's not just being the loudest voice in the room. It's not just being the smartest person. It's not just being the bossiest. It's about being good for people. It's about your space being good for people. I had a quote earlier that said, leadership is so much more than how you are fit to lead. It's about how safe others feel to follow. So I'm going to close out and give you some time if you want to do this while you're eating dinner, because I never like to hold people from food, to think about what will make you on fire. What will make you internally aligned with your purpose, your calling, what you're created and destined to do, but what will also create a lasting impact on those who you are leading? Will they feel integrity? Will they feel safe? Will they feel well? And will they feel like you're served? Will you feel well? Will you feel like you've been served? Will you be able to trust? And are you walking with other authentic people? That is when you are leading on fire. That's when it's not a spark anymore. It's not a Bath and Body Works candle that's sitting on the counter. It's a blaze. And it's something that can be passed on from person to person to person. It's something that provides light, and it's something that provides warmth. It's something that transitions things from what was before into something creatively new. Are you on fire as a leader? Anybody have any questions? How many of y'all feel on fire as a leader? You feel like you're like a blazing hot fire. Okay, I like it. Okay, good. We got some fire in the room. I like it. You feel like you have capacity. I like it. I love to hear it. Excellent. Well, I'll be down here if you have any questions, but if not, I appreciate you all with the time that you spent with me. Here's my information. If you have any other questions that you may not want to say out loud to anyone, you can just go to our website. We do a lot of these workshops and talks, but thank you all, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors as leaders, and excited for everything that you're going to do, and please stay on fire.
Thank you so much, Dr. B, for those words of wisdom and giving us different strategies on how to promote wellness in our workspaces and as we continue in our leadership development as emerging leaders. So again, thank you so much for that. Up next, to move us forward, we will go ahead and take a break and have dinner that is right over here. Feel free to connect with other leaders from different campuses. We also have some special individuals in the back. 3 of our vice presidents for student affairs. So again, thank you for being here and supporting our emerging leaders. But now we will go ahead and line up for dinner, and it is self-serve, so please feel free to help yourselves and engage with other campus leaders.